eBay has announced going fee-free in the UK, but there is a lot more to this story. What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to a special episode of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Big news, big news over in the UK over the last couple of days. We've kind of been talking about this over the last couple of weeks. There have been some rumors and some announcements coming about potentially some fee-free selling, and eBay has finally made the announcement over in the UK. And there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye, and that I'm seeing a lot of other people talk about. So I wanted to do a quick special episode to bring this to you. I know a lot of my viewers and listeners are here in the US, and this doesn't necessarily apply, but we have seen historically where when these things happen over in the EU, in Germany and in the UK, that eventually they're kind of precursors to things that might be coming to the US. So these are things we want to keep an eye on. And this one obviously is a huge announcement. So let's just dive right in here. These articles are all from Liz over at Value Added Resources, who is doing some absolutely terrific reporting on this. So if you're not following her on X or on Facebook or are a subscriber to her newsletter, please consider doing that. She is just doing some fantastic work with this. And this is what I've used as my source for this video. So all credit to her. I'm just a messenger here. eBay UK today announced that it has removed fees for private sellers across all categories except for motors, which includes cars, motorcycles, and vehicle listings. That means that sellers will no longer pay final value fees or regulatory operating fees when they sell on eBay. So, and that's eBay UK, to be clear. This is only in the UK at this time. eBay UK introduced free selling in fashion earlier this year, which we've talked about numerous times on this show, and is now evolving the experience even further to foster a more streamlined and safe selling platform. They did also introduce some additional features, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Simplified selling. Sellers can list items across categories within minutes using guidance about best pricing and shipping options along AI-generated descriptions and photo-enhancing tools. We've talked about some of that in the past and how inconsistent maybe those things have been. Simple delivery. This service, currently being rolled out across categories, offers sellers a tracked and fully covered delivery at competitive rates, prepaid by the buyer for a simple and secure shipping experience. eBay Local, which lets shoppers nearby find items available for in-person collection, all protected, of course, by eBay's money-back guarantee. Sellers' listings will have increased visibility with local buyers, along with an easy and secure payment process. And eBay Balance, which we're going to talk about a little bit more here in a moment. Starting from mid-October, this new feature gives sellers the flexibility to use their earnings to shop on eBay, promote their listings, purchase delivery labels, or withdraw available funds. That's a key one, so you'll want to stay tuned. There is a lot more further on in this show. For private sellers residing outside the UK who do list on the UK site, the fees will be 12.8% of the total amount of the sale, which includes the item price, postage, and any applicable taxes, plus a fixed charge of 30 pence per order. So if you're not living in the UK, even if you're considered a private seller, this fee-free thing is not going to apply to you. This is only for UK resident private sellers. They have also said that, and we talked about this previously, UK private sellers, number one, are going to be limited to 300 listings. It's a little unclear at this time whether that's a rolling 300 or whether they get a new 300 every month, but they're saying it's 300. So they're going to be capped at some level. eBay is also going to be much more aggressive about sorting out who are private sellers and who are actually business sellers. They've been a little unclear about what the metric is. Is it a dollar amount? Is it a number of listings? Is it a number of transactions? But they're going to be much more aggressive in sorting out who is and is not a private seller. There has been a lot of chatter online already from business sellers in the UK who are obviously very disturbed by this whole thing and have said point blank, they're just going to start creating multiple private businesses, private listings, private eBay accounts in order to take advantage of this fee-free selling. So it is, to be fair, it creates a little bit of an unlevel playing field where professional sellers, registered business sellers, are going to be at a bit of a disadvantage. And I can absolutely understand why they are concerned about that. Unfortunately, that is not all of the end of the story that goes on here. So, moving on, the second part of this thing was the eBay balance, which brings, as they say, greater flexibility to how sellers use and manage their earnings on the site, similar to what they call spendable funds here in the US. But watch out for changes, they say, to scheduled payouts. This is part of their bigger announcement. The feature will allow sellers to use those proceeds to pay for shipping labels, shop for new items on the platform, and this all goes into effect October 16th. The fee-free private selling went into effect today, October 1st, 2024. So that is already up and running. This eBay balance thing doesn't go into effect for another couple of weeks. They say you can use your earnings to shop on eBay and more. From 16 October, you'll be able to enjoy greater flexibility with your sales earnings with the introduction of eBay Balance. Use your earnings to easily and conveniently make a purchase and pay for delivery labels, promoted listings, and more. At checkout, just select eBay Balance as your payment method. You can use as much or as little of your balance as you like, or combine your balance with another payment method to cover the full amount. Plus, you can easily withdraw your funds when you need them. With eBay Balance, your earnings are ready to use once your sales and funds are processed. They do note that some holds may apply. Important to note, this change will get rid of scheduled payouts completely for private sellers. So if you are registered as a private seller, and you have scheduled payouts, be they daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, that's going away. Once funds are processed, they will simply automatically sit in your eBay balance until and unless you request to withdraw them. So this automated process is going away. You will not get regularly scheduled payouts as a private seller once this goes into place. Your funds will stay on eBay, much like they do on Mercari. Mercari does not have an automated payout system here in the US. They want you to manually go in and get your money. They want to keep that money on site. And we're going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about why that is the case. But be aware that if you are a seller in the UK and you're a private seller, starting on October 16th, scheduled payouts are going to go away. Liz over at Value Added Resource notes, defaulting to leaving funds on the account is a shrewd move for eBay, since, of course, they earn interest on those funds. But requiring sellers to manually request transfers does seem like a giant step backwards in convenience and user experience. So if you're a seller in the UK, you definitely want to be aware of that. And let me know in the comments, whether you're in the UK or not, what your take is on any of this news. The most interesting one, and the one I've not really seen anybody talk about, is this little tidbit. This article leads, UK sellers rejoiced, at least the private ones did. The professional ones did not. I've been watching some videos today, and some of the business sellers over in the UK are not pleased. But they rejoiced at the news that private fee-free selling had been expanded to all categories except motors, but the company buried the lead on another shoe left to drop. Buyer fees are probably coming in the UK next year in 2025. So this is a really interesting one. The bad news for buyers was quietly tucked inside of eBay's 8K, which was filed with the SEC yesterday and carefully nestled into an otherwise bland and self-congratulatory internal email from their CEO. I'm just going to read this thing to you so you can get all the information. I wanted to share some exciting news just announced in the UK. Beginning today, eBay is removing selling fees for consumer-to-consumer sellers in the UK, otherwise known as private sellers, not B2C, business-to-consumer, for domestic transactions across all categories, excluding motors. Again, important to note, it's domestic transactions. It has to be a private consumer in the UK selling to another private consumer also in the UK. Anybody that is not in the UK or is a business seller is not going to qualify. I know I keep saying that, but I want to be clear. This follows the introduction of fee-free selling in pre-owned apparel categories earlier this year. Additionally, we are introducing significant enhancements for our UK customers, including a streamlined listing process, simple delivery, a revamped local pickup experience, and enhanced wallet functionality. That's questionable whether it's enhanced or not through eBay Balance. So all of this is designed to focus on people who are not currently on the platform at all, but particularly people who are not selling on the platform. because eBay, as we talk about regularly, can be notoriously difficult to work with as a seller. There's a lot to know, and they're attempting to streamline all this with the additional enticement of being fee-free. This announcement, they said, was many months in the making and made possible through the hard work and collaboration of teams across the company. Importantly, the initiative was contemplated in our financial outlook provided to the investment community at Q2 2024. So this has been in the works for quite some while. They note, we have a robust monetization roadmap to ensure these changes are good for both customers and our business overall. This includes value-added services like first-party advertising, financial services, and a new value proposition in shipping that we plan to scale in Q4. So that's some of the stuff that they talked about early on in this thing. Here's the big one. We are also planning to introduce a buyer-facing fee in the UK in early 2025, alongside a set of buyer enhancements that provide additional value, which is what they always say to try to make this sound a little bit better. There will be more we can share on our future plans at Q3 2024 earnings on our next global all hands event. That is going to be very interesting. The plan is part of eBay's larger global strategy pivot since Chief Business Strategy Officer Stephanie Jay resigned earlier in the year, which puts more emphasis again on this non-new in-season consumer-to-consumer side of the marketplace. That was, to be fair, the kind of the foundation of eBay way, way back in the late 90s. This is our second major initiative, they said, of its kind in as many years, and I believe it's important to take this opportunity to discuss the strategic rationale behind our consumer-to-consumer initiatives. C2C sellers make our marketplace more vibrant by bringing some of the most unique, hard-to-find, and well-priced inventory. The key thing there, and the one I've heard the most complaints from the kind of professional sellers talking about, is the fact that they are now going to be on that rare and unusual item that they've got at a competitive disadvantage on price, because a private seller is not going to have to account for any fees. So the business seller who has tried to, as David Lee from Mercari said, bake those fees into their price is either going to have to reduce their price to account for those fees or be at a competitive disadvantage. And that is the big concern for most of those quote unquote professional sellers in the UK. C2C selling drives holistic growth on our marketplace as buyers who sell on average purchase roughly twice as much on eBay as non-sellers, with most of their incremental spend supporting small business sellers. This is one of their big pushes to try to sell this to business sellers. So the rationale is that going fee-free for private sellers will bring more people into the marketplace in general, which will then lead to more buying going on in the marketplace, and that buying is largely done supporting what you would consider to be professional sellers. I've got more on that in a minute, so don't go away just yet. Our initiative in Germany last year has shown us that eliminating selling fees can strengthen our marketplace by lowering the barriers to C2C selling, which improves the breadth and depth of the inventory on eBay. The introduction of buyers facing fees on eBay will no doubt surprise both buyers and sellers alike, as other competing marketplaces have gone this route. The most common comment I hear among eBay sellers is they don't believe, and this is Liz who is saying this, eBay buyers would tolerate such a significant change to the way business is done on the platform. The interesting part about this, and again, this is in their SEC filing, so this is not fleshed out. There's no details. But how does this work? So if I am a private buyer and I buy from a private seller, is that when I will pay that buyer fee? Or will I pay it on everything? Will eBay double dip? Will they get a fee from both the buyer and the seller on an item that's bought from a business seller? Will this fee be significantly lower than what sellers would have been paying, private sellers would have been paying on their sales, to account for the fact that that fee is going to be charged to everyone? There are so many questions to be answered about what this is going to look like. But these are huge, huge, huge changes over at eBay UK, and I thought they were worth taking 15 or 20 minutes to talk about, just to kind of get it out there, what's going on. As I said, these things are things that tend to roll in waves, starting in these smaller markets like Europe and then finding their way over to the US. So there is a good chance that at some point in the future, some, if not all of this, is going to come over here to the US as well. If you're a seller in the UK, professional or private, let me know what you think of these changes. Let me know what you think. I have not seen anybody really talking about this announcement, which was, to be fair, buried in an SEC filing, that there are going to be buyer fees coming. eBay is not just going to get rid of fees and hope that the numbers take care of themselves. They're clearly going to make an effort to recoup some of that. And a big part of that appears to be that they are going to start charging buyer fees as well in the UK sometime next year. If you've been following what's going on here in the US with Mercari, you'll know that there has been a big pushback from buyers on that. There was initially a significant abandoned cart issue. I did my initial video and podcast on that issue clear back in March. And that video is still getting views and still getting comments from buyers who say they will not shop on Mercari because of those fees. And eBay has been around a lot longer and has established a pattern of how their businesses run over many, many years that I, for my part, and you can let me know again in the comments, I'm not convinced that buyers will be open to that change. So let me know what you think, but that's the other shoe to drop. The fee-free selling, as was announced on Mercari, seemed like a great deal until you got into the details, and now you're talking about potentially a buyer fee and private sellers having their money tied up. I'm not convinced that this thing maybe is as big a deal as maybe it looks like on the surface. So really interesting times over at eBay UK. Let me know what you think. Please leave me a comment. If you got some value out of this, do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button to let the algorithm know that this is a video that everybody who sells on eBay might want to watch. Until next time, it's time to sell. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.